My stepdaughter stole my car, crashed it, and told the police I was the one who did the hit and run. My wife told me to just take the fall for the family. So I smiled, said nothing, and did this instead. 2 months later, she was crying in court while my wife begged me to forgive them. You don't expect your day to end with 2 cops knocking on your front door, especially when you spent most of it working from home, submitting invoices, folding laundry, and fixing a leaky faucet in the downstairs bathroom. A wild day, I know. So when I opened the door and saw them, uniforms, radio chatter, serious expressions, I genuinely thought there had been a mistake. Then they said my name, full name, and I knew this wasn't about a neighbor's mailbox or a noise complaint. They asked if I was aware that my vehicle, my silver SUV, had been involved in a hit and run that morning. I laughed, genuinely, because I thought they were joking. I think you've got the wrong guy, I said. My car's in the driveway. I haven't left the house all day. One officer tilted his head slightly, like he wasn't quite buying it. Sir, a witness identified your license plate. Your stepdaughter Qley told us you took the vehicle around 9 a.m. this morning. My brain stopped for a second. Qley? That's when I looked past them and saw my car wasn't in the driveway. The space was empty. Huh. Then it all hit me at once. Qley didn't have her own car. She'd been bugging us for months about it. Tracy kept saying she needed more independence and mobility. I'd offered to help with driving lessons. Qley said that was controlling. I walked outside, scanned the street, just in case I was imagining things. But no, my car was gone, and apparently had hit someone. Where's the other driver? I asked. Hospital, the officer replied. Not life-threatening. Broken wrist. Concussion. They were riding a bike. Jesus. She said the driver fled. We have a witness who saw the car, followed it far enough to get the plate. And Qley said it was me? Yes. And your wife confirmed it. I didn't respond. Not right away. Because I was still trying to process how my own wife, who I had breakfast with this morning, could possibly claim she saw me take the car I didn't even know was missing. Is that what she told you? I finally asked. The officer nodded. Yes, sir. She said she saw you leave around 9. And Qley mentioned you were upset before leaving. She also said you may have had an argument, and, he hesitated, that you may have struck her. There it was. I must have blinked about 20 times. Because surely I was hallucinating. There was no way, absolutely no way, Tracy would go along with something like this. She was there. In the same house. She knew I never left. And Qley? Qley was smart. Manipulative, yes, but she wasn't stupid. If this was a lie, it was a dangerous one. I didn't hit her, I said. I haven't touched her. And I definitely didn't take that car anywhere today. Would you be willing to come with us for questioning? I agreed. Of course I did. Because I wasn't guilty, and I figured that meant the truth would sort itself out. Cute thought. They let me ride in the back, not cuffed, but the look my neighbor gave me as they shut the door? That's the kind of thing that sticks with you. At the station, I asked for my lawyer. Not because I had anything to hide, but because clearly I was living in a world where logic had taken a sick day. When Tracy finally came in, after I'd been sitting for 2 hours, her face was pale, but not with guilt. With fear. Not fear that I'd been wrongly accused. Not fear for the cyclist who'd been hit. Fear that the situation might affect Qley's college applications. I'm sorry, she said, sitting across from me. But Qley's already so scared. She panicked. She said you'd be the one to handle it best. She said what? I asked, almost laughing. She said you'd know how to fix it. That you'd take care of it for the family. I stared at her. You know I didn't take the car. You were with me all morning. She swallowed. Yes, but it's different now. There's a police report. And the bruise. That stopped me cold. What bruise? She has a bruise on her arm from the crash, Tracy said. She told them you grabbed her during an argument and stormed out after hitting her. So, let me get this straight, I said slowly. Your daughter steals my car, crashes it, flees the scene, and then tells the police I was the one driving. And you, my wife, who could be my alibi, chose to back her story up and imply that I'm violent. Tracy flinched. It's just until we figure it out. There's nothing to figure out, I said. She lied. And you lied with her. She's scared. She made a mistake. I looked her dead in the eye. So did you. She reached for my hand across the table. Please, just take the blame for now. We'll fix it later. I pulled my hand away. Slowly. Calmly. That's when I stopped talking. I smiled. Just a little. Because the thing about being betrayed is that it clarifies things. It tells you who's in your corner and who's willing to burn you alive for someone else's mistake. They wanted me to take the fall. Sure, but not in the way they expected. It's funny. If someone had asked me 6 years ago whether I wanted kids, I probably would have shrugged and said something vague like, if it happens, it happens. That's the kind of thing you say in your 30s when you haven't ruled it out, but haven't exactly put it on your vision board either. Then I met Tracy. She was smart, confident, funny in this dry, slightly ruthless way. She also had a 13-year-old daughter named Qley who looked through me like I was a substitute teacher who didn't know how to work the projector. On our second date, Tracy told me she wasn't looking for a father for her kid, just a partner who could handle things without getting weird. I laughed. I'm great at not getting weird, I said, which in hindsight is one of the weirdest things a person could say. But somehow we worked. 6 months later, I was helping Qley with algebra homework while Tracy fell asleep on the couch mid-documentary. I made pancakes on weekends, drove Qley to volleyball practice, learned what a TikTok dance was, briefly regretted it, and slowly started to carve out a place in their life. I never expected her to call me dad. I wasn't trying to replace anyone. Her biological dad was still around in that way distant satellites are, technically present, just not in any way that helps your GPS function. But I showed up. Every day. I paid for braces. School clothes. The phone she shattered twice in one semester. When she turned 16 and started hinting at driving lessons, I offered to teach her. She rolled her eyes and said, "That's what actual parents do," and walked away. I told myself it didn't sting. It did. A little. Still, I kept showing up. Tracy always said Qley would come around eventually. She's just got a strong personality, she'd say, like it was a compliment. She pushes boundaries because she's smart, which I guess is one way to rebrand spoiled and manipulative. But hey, I was in it for the long haul. Families aren't built in a day. I figured if I just stayed consistent, supportive, steady, unflinching, eventually I'd earn her trust. Spoiler alert, I did not. If anything, the older she got, the more she learned how to leverage her mom like a human shield. If Qley missed curfew, it was because I had weird rules. If her grades dropped, it was because I stressed her out by asking about homework. If I ever dared to say no, she'd sigh dramatically and say I was controlling. Tracy always smoothed things over. Always told me not to escalate. She had this talent for redirecting any conversation away from accountability. If Qley yelled, it was passion. If she lied, it was fear. If she threw a hairbrush at the wall during an argument, true story, it was just hormones. At first, I rationalized it. Teenage girls are hard. Blended families are hard. Maybe I just needed to be more patient. So I tried. I showed up for every parent-teacher conference. Paid for SAT tutoring. Helped her apply to college. Bought a used car in my name that I planned to transfer to her once she had her license and insurance. That car? The one she crashed into someone and blamed on me? Yeah, that one. Tracy kept saying things would change once Qley matured. They all grow out of it eventually, she said. Just give her space. And I did. I gave her space. I gave her my Saturdays. I gave her my car. I gave her everything short of a direct deposit. And in return, she tried to frame me for a felony. I've spent weeks thinking about that moment, Tracy sitting across from me, wringing her hands like she was the victim, saying she's scared. She made a mistake. No, a mistake is dropping your phone in the toilet. A mistake is forgetting to submit your college application before the deadline. Stealing someone's car, fleeing the scene of an accident, and falsely accusing them of assault is not a mistake. It's a strategy. And Tracy, she didn't just go along with it. She reinforced it. She filled in the gaps. When the police asked if she'd seen me leave that morning, she said yes. She looked them in the eye and said he was upset. I thought he just needed to blow off steam. Blow off steam. At the time she said that, I was folding towels in the laundry room and answering work emails. The most rebellious thing I'd done that morning was make coffee with 2 shots of espresso instead of 1. But none of that mattered, because they had a story. And it was neat, convenient. Better to sacrifice the boring, reliable stepdad than let the golden child's future crumble under the weight of actual consequences. So yeah, I stopped being nice. Not publicly. Not dramatically. I still paid the bills. Still took out the trash. Still sent polite texts like, "Hope your meeting went well." But behind the scenes, I got quiet. Strategic. I spoke to my lawyer. I requested every shred of traffic camera footage available. I pulled text logs, timestamps, receipts. I froze the joint account and opened a new one. Transferred my paycheck. Removed Tracy's access to every login she used to ignore but rely on. Power, gas, Wi-Fi. All in my name. I started documenting everything. Because if they wanted a villain, I'd give them one. Just not the kind they were expecting. Getting accused of a hit and run is one thing. Getting accused of it by your stepdaughter, who stole your car, is another. But having your wife back her up, that does something to you. Not in a loud, rage-filled way. It's quieter, colder, like something inside you shuts off so you can finally stop making excuses for people who don't deserve them. After that day at the station, I stopped asking why. Why they'd do it. Why they'd lie. Why no one seemed to care about the one person who paid the mortgage, kept the lights on, filled the fridge, and tried, God help me, to be a good stepdad. I didn't need the answers anymore. I just needed proof. It started with the traffic cameras. Turns out when you're accused of a crime, you're allowed to request footage. Through my lawyer, we obtained 2 glorious angles of my SUV blowing through a red light near the intersection where the cyclist was hit. And guess what? The driver wasn't me. It wasn't even hard to tell. Qley was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, but she was barely tall enough to see over the wheel. Her side profile was unmistakable. And better yet, she was laughing. In the footage, you could literally see her mouth open wide mid-laugh, right before she swerved around the corner. Beautiful. But I didn't stop there. My lawyer, bless him, told me to dig deeper. It's not just about proving you didn't do it. It's about proving she knew she was lying. So I went through her social media. Qley had locked down her Instagram stories and TikTok after the incident, but teenagers are terrible at privacy. A friend of hers had reposted clips from that same morning. Qley getting ready, holding keys up to the camera with the caption, Steppy's SUV today. There was even a boomerang of her and her friend pretending to drift the steering wheel in my driveway. Then came the party footage. Because of course there was a party. Turns out, right before the accident, Qley had picked up 2 friends. They were headed to some graduation brunch that, in typical teenage fashion, escalated into music, drinks, and a fair amount of chaos. One of those friends went live for 30 seconds before the crash. Just long enough to capture Qley singing along to a song while driving, flipping the camera to show the road, and the red light she sped through. After the crash, they panicked. The friend deleted the video. But nothing is ever really deleted. Another person screen recorded it, sent it to someone, who sent it to someone else. And eventually, it landed in my inbox with a subject line that just said, "Thought you should see this." Oh, I did. Meanwhile, back at home, Tracy and Qley were still pretending everything was tense but salvageable. Qley stayed in her room, milking the bruise on her arm like it was a war injury. Tracy tiptoed around me like I was a dangerous animal. She even had the nerve to say, "You know, if you'd just gone along with it, things wouldn't be so uncomfortable now." Uncomfortable? You falsely accuse me of felony assault and vehicular hit and run, and I'm the reason dinner's awkward? But I smiled, nodded, said, "You're right. I've been selfish." That night, I finished backing up all the evidence, copied the video files, time-stamped every photo and post. I handed everything over to my lawyer, who handed it to the detective assigned to the case. It only took 3 days. 3 days before I was officially cleared. 3 days before the charges against me were dropped, and fresh ones were filed against Qley. Hit and run. Filing a false police report. Driving without a license, because, surprise, hers was suspended from a speeding ticket I didn't know about. And Tracy. She wasn't off the hook either. She'd submitted a false statement. Lied about my whereabouts. Backed up a claim she knew was fabricated. The word obstruction got thrown around. When the police showed up at the house again, this time to question them, Tracy looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What did you do?" she asked me, eyes wide. I sipped my coffee. "You mean, what did you do?" She followed me into the kitchen, like I owed her an explanation. "You didn't have to go that far." I laughed. "You tried to frame me for a felony. It was one mistake. I was trying to protect her. By throwing me under the bus? That's your idea of protection." "She's my daughter," Tracy snapped. "What was I supposed to do?" "You were supposed to tell the truth." She looked at me like that concept had never occurred to her. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. "She's just a kid. She has her whole future ahead of her. You're a grown man. You'd survive." I don't know if she realized what she said. Maybe she did. Maybe she meant it. Either way, it was the last nail in the coffin. Because what she was really saying was, you don't matter. You're disposable. Your reputation, your job, your life, all of it was worth sacrificing to keep her daughter's image clean. That night, I changed the locks. Legally, I couldn't keep them out permanently. Not yet, but it was a start. I also moved every cent from our joint account into a new one under my name. Reported the car stolen, because let's face it, it was. Froze the credit cards she had access to. And scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney. The best part, I didn't tell her a word. I let her stew in the silence while the court date crept closer. Qley got a lawyer. Tracy tried to handle things informally, with the DA, saying it was all a misunderstanding. The DA declined. Turns out when you accuse an innocent person of a felony, and have video evidence to prove it's false, prosecutors tend to take that personally. When the court date arrived, I wore a gray suit. Clean shave. Calm expression. Qley showed up puffy-eyed. Tracy clutched her hand like it was her life on the line. The moment before we walked in, Tracy pulled me aside. Please, she said, don't let this destroy our family. I looked at her dead in the eye. There is no family, I said. You destroyed that the day you decided I was disposable. And then I walked into the courtroom. I didn't look back. Court was quieter than I expected. No shouting. No law and order drama. Just fluorescent lights, uncomfortable chairs, and a judge who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Qley sat 2 rows ahead of me with her attorney. Hair curled. Mascara barely smudged. She was trying so hard to look innocent, it almost felt like a school play. Except this one came with real charges and the possibility of community service or even juvenile detention. Tracy sat beside her, hands folded tightly in her lap. She kept glancing at me like I might change my mind mid-proceeding, stand up, and announce it was all a big misunderstanding. Like I'd play the hero and save them both from the consequences they'd baked and served on their own. Spoiler, I didn't. The judge read through the charges, hit and run, providing false statements, operating a vehicle without a valid license, and then gave Qley the floor. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client regrets her decisions. She was frightened. She panicked. And she had no intention of causing harm. Qley sniffled right on cue. Theatrical. I almost admired the effort. Then she said it. I didn't think my stepdad would take it so far. He was always calm. I thought he'd understand. I thought he'd protect us. Us. That word landed like a brick in my chest. Not because of what she meant, but because of what it confirmed. They never saw me as a person. Just a utility. A walking ATM with a bonus dad badge they could flash when it suited them. The judge asked if I had anything to say. I stood. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to look them both in the eye when I said it. I've spent the last 6 years trying to be a good husband and a good father figure. I paid the bills, drove her to school, paid for groceries, insurance, tutors, phones, therapy apps she never opened. I showed up. I was there. Even when I wasn't wanted. I paused. Qley wouldn't meet my eyes. Tracy was already crying. I didn't expect to be thanked. But I didn't expect to be thrown under a bus either. Especially not by the people I sacrificed everything to support. I sat down. That was it. No screaming. No dramatics. Just the truth said plainly. The judge issued Qley a suspended sentence with mandatory community service, a formal apology letter to the cyclist, and 6 months of counseling. She wouldn't be getting that out-of-state university dorm she bragged about last year. Tracy. She got a court warning. No charges, but the DA called her conduct deeply concerning, which is legal code for, you're lucky we don't want to waste more taxpayer money on your mess. Afterward, Tracy tried one last time to talk to me. She followed me to the parking lot. I'm sorry, she said, voice shaking. I didn't know what else to do. I nodded slowly. That's the thing. You did know. You just chose Qley over the truth. She's my daughter, she said again, like it was a spell she hoped would fix everything. And I was your husband. She didn't answer. I got in my car. The replacement for the one Qley totaled. The one she was never supposed to drive. And then I drove away. For the last time. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Update. A lot has happened since I first posted this. Thanks to everyone who commented. Seriously. I got a ton of messages. Some people saying I handled it with class. Others telling me I should have gone scorched earth. A few said I was cold. A few called me a monster who ruined a teenage girl's life. To be honest, I wasn't planning on saying anything else. But after everything that's happened, I figured a little closure wouldn't hurt. So here's the update. First of all, I did not give them the house. Why would I? I paid the down payment. I handled the mortgage every month. It was always in my name. Tracy was never on the deed. She contributed to exactly 0% of the bills. And after accusing me of a felony, it felt generous enough that I didn't sue her for defamation or obstruction. So I kept the house. I gave her 30 days to move out. 45, if she could prove she had nowhere to go. She moved out in 29. Qley too. Turns out they didn't have anywhere else to go because, shocker, they were entirely financially dependent on me. No jobs. No savings. No backup plan. Tracy had gotten used to living on what she called a blended budget, which is a cute way of saying my income. She worked part-time for a friend's boutique, mostly to get discounts on clothes she already didn't need. Qley was still between decisions about college and working on a gap year to explore personal growth, which apparently translated to laying around the house and asking for DoorDash money. So when I took the house back and cut off their access to the accounts, reality hit fast. Tracy had to move in with her sister temporarily. Qley ended up on a friend's couch. I heard through the grapevine that Qley started working at a local cafe. I resisted the urge to stop by. Barely. Tracy tried getting her boutique friend to give her more hours, but once word got out about what she and Qley did, filing a false report, trying to frame someone for a hit and run, her social circle went quiet. Apparently, framing your spouse doesn't pair well with wine nights and Pilates class. Even her best friend, who used to call me such a solid guy at every dinner party, ghosted her. Completely. I didn't need revenge. They ruined themselves. Their lives got harder in slow, humiliating ways. The kind where the car gets repossessed because you forgot it wasn't magically paid off. The kind where the phone plan gets shut off because it was under my name. The kind where you have to reapply for health insurance and realize you've never filled out that kind of paperwork on your own. I heard Qley dropped out of her court-mandated therapy, then got ordered back in or faced more community service. I'm guessing self-reflection isn't her strong suit. As for me, I still live in the house. It's quiet now. Peaceful. I redid the office, got a new dog, picked up cycling again. My neighbors, yes, the same ones who saw me escorted to a police car, stopped avoiding me after they found out the truth. One even brought over a bottle of whiskey and said, "You handled that better than I would have." And no, I'm not bitter. I'm just done. I gave that family everything. Time, money, patience, love. And when it came time for them to choose between protecting me and protecting a lie, they chose the lie. Without hesitation. So I walked away with my name cleared, my head high, and a mortgage I now pay happily, knowing no one else is secretly planning my downfall in the guest room. Like I said before, some people still think I went too far. That I ruined a young girl's future over a moment of panic. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am the bad guy. What do you think? Leave a comment below.